Hello, listener. The fact you hear this means you're alive. If you're new here, consider subscribing and comment below where you're listening from. Let's begin the story. Day 23, 2:14 a.m., flood stage 3. I'm Logan Hart. Renee Park is with me. Water is over the lower fence and the sandbags bow. The sump pump coughs and the batteries sit at 28. Rules: no metal on metal, no outside light, never open to unknown knocks. Someone taps our code at the door. 1, 2, pause, 3. Wet breath leaks under the door, nails scrape the sill. They track sound, Renee says. Decide. Keep it sealed and water floods the hall. Open it and we risk the infected. We have 8 shells and 4 doses. East trip line rang once, then stopped. Feet drag, then still. I cut the latch tie on 3. The porch answers with a second code, too clean for a wanderer in the rain outside. Either it's one of ours or they learned our pattern. If we open now, we drown inside. Rewind to day 1. It starts on Friday night. Lights stay low and the house runs DC only. The inverter sleeps. Rain sits heavy. I am Logan Hart, former Recon. I run this place like a small patrol base because rules buy time when roads drown, and Renee Park builds the drains that keep that time from washing out. Her job is slope and flow. She marks weak points with tape. We move sandbags, cut channels, and lay plastic that bites mud and holds. The radio by the pantry is an old HF. Whisper volume. Scan before and after the hour. People who plan transmit then. Tonight, the weather band lists shelter advisories for counties that never share a page. The voice is out of state and clipped like a relay. Every third sentence carries a word that did not exist last week. Infected. Renee wraps a latch in rubber so it will not sing and says the creek jumps the lower fence if this cell hangs to midnight. I say we stack another line at the corner and add wedge sacks. We do not move metal on metal. We tape rings and chains, pad handles, wedge grates, and work slow because one bright note travels across wet ground like a flare. I inventory power, read the shunt, check battery temp, look at the runoff bucket. We stay on DC, kill fridge cycles, swap cold food for quiet. Runoff wins on day 2, so we pin a reminder near the sink, pasteurize before panic. A thermometer beats a boil when fuel is low. Perimeter is simple. 4 lines with space between. Paracord trip lines with wooden clackers. 2 glow markers, a gate barred from inside. I walk the line with a red lamp and a fiberglass hook pole. Feet on gravel edge, count downspouts because clogged spouts throw water into basements and basements break people faster than teeth do. At the southeast corner, a wedge sack slumped and water bit under the ground mount solar, I call it. Renee answers with a nod and a roll of plastic. We cut a trench, lay sheeting, push bags until the lip turns flow. Inside I set rules in ink because ink demands attention. No outside light, no loud tools, radios scan low, doors barred, hot zone in the mudroom. Break a rule, own the repair. We eat rice and beans on an alcohol burner, small flame, less smell, and the creek pushes between rain bursts, a hint the lot will flood if the culvert clogs at the bend. Renee says the lower swale needs a cut before sunrise or we lose the path to the greenhouse. We stage rubber boots and taped shovels and move. I kit a small pack with water, tape, gauze, headlamp, handheld, screwdriver, hook pole, cutters, foil blanket, no shotgun, a loud gun is a bell. At 21:10, the HF catches a voice 3 counties over. A man calls stations by road name and mile marker, asks for an EMT because the clinic closed. He says they bite and do not stop until bone breaks. Deputies off the air. He reads 3 names and a child's age, then static. Renee draws a quick map of our slope with arrows, then writes 2 words by the back door. Flood push. Pressure comes there first. I wrap another ring around the door latch, towel under the bar, wedge on the hinge, and show Renee a door fight pattern. Leverage wins when space is narrow and wet. At 21:42, the first trip line clacks once and goes still. Wind can do that or a deer. But wind here is steady and animals panic when a line touches fur. This was one clean note, then silence. I go to the north slit and wait. Nothing at first, just rain and a stump shape near the outer path. I lower the light, breathe. The shape shifts by an inch and stops like a man thinking. We do not open doors to unknowns, do not call out, do not show light, and do not shoot without a backstop and a plan for the echo. Renee checks the battery gauge, a small rise through cloud, not permission to relax. I check the mudroom, bleach bottles, gloves, towels, tape down, drain clear, a dry shirt staged, wet cotton steals heat and slow minds make noise. At 22:03, the radio runs one clipped loop. Remain indoors, avoid hospitals, isolate if exposed, report if symptomatic. The voice stumbles, breathes, repeats, then drops. Watch rotates on 2-hour blocks until dawn. My slot first, Renee second. We wake gently, confirm eyes, ears, hands, and mind, then log time and status. The creek jumps the lower fence at 22:20, a flat rush that takes gravel. Pitch changes near the corner where bags fail first. We move 2 each, seams crossed, mouths away from flow. A sound from the road while we stack, not a car, not thunder. A lid rings and scrapes, that tone carries and the woods answer. We freeze and count. 1 ring, scrape, then wind. No steps in the ditch, no breath at the fence. We finish the set and back into the porch, close without a click because the towel takes the bite from the latch. Renee checks the culvert camera, grainy and wet, debris piles against the mesh, sticks, a tire, leaves moving like a single sheet, water climbs. I write culvert at first light and circle it twice. I walk the house with the hook pole, touch doors, bars, locks, end at the radio, lower volume and say it out loud. We are not alone out there anymore. At 2300, the north line sings 2 notes and dies. Wind does not count. Deer do not stop after 2, and infected do not call names. They lean and push and test what holds. We wait and write the time. We hold 10 more minutes, stand down, and save the argument for morning. I sleep near the hallway, boots on, radio low, rain on the roof. A list in my head, culvert, swale, panels, fence, food. I close day 1 with a line in the log, clear, wet, ready. Then another because true, someone heard us work. They will come back when water drops, and they will press the fence until something gives. Before dawn on day 2, rain holds, the creek runs a new line, and we move like we trained, slow and clean. I wake Renee with a touch and a whisper. Boots, jacket, headlamp on red, zipper taped. We carry a hook pole, 2 rubber-wrapped shovels, a towel-padded pry bar, and a plastic bin because plastic on plastic stays quiet. First task is the culvert at the bend. The grate is half buried, leaves and a tire jammed across, water stacking and eating the bank. The path to the greenhouse will go under if we ignore it. We face downstream. 1 works, 1 watch. We pull on the low pulse, never on the crest because a bad second breaks fingers and plans. I wedge the branch with the padded bar. Renee cuts a slot and we pull together. The mat tears and the tire rolls, the surge drops and the ditch clears. We both breathe. We screen the outlet with a stick crib and scrap mesh, not perfect, enough to slow the next sheet of leaves. Renee writes, "Flow okay" on tape and sticks it to the frame so we remember this corner is handled. I log time, draw water arrows on the map. Maps stop arguments later. Back inside, we pasteurize jugs at 63 Celsius, mark time and initials, and hang socks to dry. Food is oats and powdered milk, salt enough to drink again. Dry feet are quiet feet. At 9:20, a woman rides in on HF skip, inland weak voice. She says the county closed the hospital and parked a truck at the ambulance bay. She says a nurse was bitten and the biter did not stop. She whispers because someone is in the hall. Carrier dies. I write avoid hospitals again. Midday, we cut a new drain along the lower edge of the solar ground mount. Night rain undercut post holes. A shallow swale pulls flow left to the ditch. Sheet, sandbags, flat rock. Renee flattens panel angle for wind and runoff, locks the combiner, tapes the latch. I tag storm profile at the controller. A truck idles far on the main road, then backs, then idles. Sound carries under cloud. We go still and count to 60. No horn, no shout, no light. Test or trouble. We do not check. Day 2 closes at the fence where the slope turns. A post shifted, we set a brace, wedge it with rock and run the line with hands because fingers find gaps eyes miss. Weather band hums tone, we sleep 2 on, 2 off. Last note in the log, creek stable, drains holding, unknown contact likely, plan holds. On day 3 morning, rain softens. We write no relax on the board. One route to the greenhouse is 1 step from none, so we cut a second path on high spots, lay 2 pallet bridges, pad rails with rubber so they will not squeal, and leash a hand line, tight but not singing. At 10:07, a man on HF reads 3 names and a child's age, last seen at an overturned white van near the lake road. He asks for an EMT. The clinic is shut. The fire station is dark. We do not answer. The road is low, the creek cuts it. A jammed van screams metal when you touch it. We are 2 people in a quiet house. I hate the call and leave the mic down. We walk perimeter at 11:30. 2 shapes stand at the far tree line, slow and wrong. They face our ridge, then face away like a compass that lost north and listens for sound. We do not wave or speak. I mark their path. Water makes paths. We must break them. Renee draws brush fans and fence confusion marks so wanderers drift elsewhere. At 15:40, the east trip line clacks twice, not wind. We take stations. A figure steps into the lower yard, soaked, jacket torn, face slack, arms low. Hold, I whisper. He hits the fence and leans, pushes, leans. The panel bows but holds. I do not fire. After a minute, he drifts away, slow, like a command stuck on run. Dusk. The creek drops an inch. The alert loop returns with half lines. Remain indoors, avoid hospitals, isolate, report. At 00:12, a clean metal note rings far, not ours. 3 minutes later, a lower answer. Closer. Someone hung plates at the circle. New rule. Stay clear until we have a plan. On day 4, the greenhouse almost goes. Morning hits hard. A pallet bridge sinks. Mud eats a corner. We pull it with a strap, crib rock under. Cut a notch so it sheds flow. The greenhouse door flexes, the latch squeals. We wrap it and tie a rope so it opens without metal on metal, then sandbag the inside base. Renee clears gutters and first flush diverters. Grit jammed the flap. She tags with blue tape. Date, time, initials. We test the water tower. Slow fill, slow drain, check the backflow seat. It holds. I write backflow OK with date and initials. At 11:20, a child-sized shape stands at the far road, jacket thin, head lolling, not a rescue. I shut the slit and breathe. We need alcohol fuel and a clean generator. The generator stays boxed and cold. We only run it behind a blanket wall with the exhaust through a barrel and water trap, and we log each minute. Renee builds 2 French drains by the lowest door, narrow slots to gravel, perforated pipe, cloth wrap, rock, soil. Water that wants to creep under now drops to trench. At 14:55, the HF relays names and pleas from the coast. Between them, the man says a convoy did not answer near the old bridge and a group of not people crossed the road slow. I circle not people and write the time. Dusk. The greenhouse door bumps twice and stops, a smear at the base where something dragged a hand. Slow. A test. We hold and then stand down. Night. The east trip line ticks once, then a foot drags, then still. We do not answer. End of the hour. Sleep. By day 5, we had first hard contact. We wake before light, no coffee. 3 tasks. Clear debris at the culvert, set a secondary drain by the shed, check the far fence bow. Ground is slick, what looks firm is soup. We rope in at the drop because a slip into cold water is a hospital trip we will not take. At 8:30, the east line clacks once and the lower yard rustles. We take stations. A man steps from the trees, clothes dark and soaked, jaw slack, right arm hangs low. He moves straight, a steady push. He leans into the fence. Nails scrape. I lift the suppressed .22, subsonic rounds for close work only. I aim for the head through mesh. Hold, Renee says low and even. He drifts along the panel, fingers on wire, then turns away without looking at us. He goes where sound was, not where light is. We speak rules because rules beat panic. No opening to unknowns. No light if anyone is outside the inner fence. No metal on metal. Never chase, never follow. If a body falls near wire, leave it until the yard is clear. If we must move one, tarp, gloves, bleach, burn rags after. We check the far fence and find a loose post, clay undercut by last night's burst. Brace, stone pack, diagonal to the next post. Real fix waits for low water. Renee marks it blue for must, green for nice. Midday is rest and maintenance. Eat, drink, pasteurize another batch. Log battery state and array input. Cloud gives a thin charge. The bank holds. I tape 2 LEDs that leak. To someone in the rain, a tiny light looks like a fire. At 14:10, voices on the road, fast and loud. Phone lights on, a kicked can rings bright, and a fence down the way sings as something grabs it and pulls. The voices trip and run. We stay still. At 1600, we bring in the meth's tote. High ground, pallet path. The barnside door opens on a hinge padded with inner tube. A sweet wrong smell sits in the loft. We do not climb. Chalk X on the ladder, note, check loft when dry. Tote rides home on a strap. Evening. We stress the backflow seat with a bucket dump. It seals. The hiss we heard was air. Renee smiles. I write hiss air only in big letters. Night setup again. Radios low, lights red, bars set, towels on latches, boots by beds, bleach in the mudroom, clean tarp by the back step. The 22 rides the hall. Shotgun stays locked. 8 shells. At 21:17, the porch takes weight. Wood speaks, not wind, not animal. A slow press on the outer corner, then a pause, then another press. Renee braces the door with a towel and bar. I hold the slit. A shadow passes, human height, then a lower shape, then still. Wet breath leaks under the door. Nails scrape the sill, slow and even. The east trip line rings once and stops. We hold. Someone taps our code on the wood. 1, 2, pause, 3. We never taught that code to anyone outside. We do not move or speak. We count. The porch answers again, faster, too clean for a wanderer. The code stops, then starts again, sharper, as if someone practiced it outside. Decide, Renee whispers. My hand finds the latch tie. I do not cut. We hold, and the house holds with us. On day 6, we treated the porch code as an attack, not a message, and changed our rules. We replaced the latch tie with a wooden brake pin, set a second bar higher, and stapled felt under the sill so breath and light would not leak. We left the code unanswered. If someone outside knows our taps, they learn them by listening, and if they listened, they can wait. Morning rain eased to mist and the creek dropped to palm, so we ran our first exterior loop with full protocol. No talk outside, hands on wood, feet on dirt when possible, stop every 10 and listen. Fresh toe drags ran above the east gate, long and shallow, not a boot tread paralleling our fence before turning for the culvert. I sketched the path and wrote, drift to sound, because the pattern matched what we heard at night. Approach, lean, pause, then follow the last clear note. Renee took the lower yard while I checked the barn loft with a respirator and red lamp. The sweet smell was rotten wet hay and a dead raccoon in the rafters, not human. I carried it out on a tarp, bleach wiped the rails, and taped a reminder on the rung. Gloves first. By mid-morning, we had a new problem. The ground mount's backside trench filled with silt. Panel legs stood in soup, and if we let it sit, the frames would twist. We cut a deeper swale, lined it with stone, and pushed a drain to the ditch. Renee lowered panel angle 2 clicks, locked the combiner, and tagged junctions with tape. Panels hate standing water. Clean feet keep watts. By midday, a short burst hit HF. A woman climbing said, bridge plates, do not stop, then static. She meant the circle. Big metal sings in wind and pulls them like a bell choir. We wrote avoid circle, all caps. Dusk brought our first clean test of the porch code. I rigged a decoy board at the woodpile, drilled 3 holes, and ran paracord to a weighted stick inside. From the kitchen, I could pull once, twice, pause, and hear what answered. I tapped. Silence. After a 20 count, a fast reply from the road, too clean, then a low scrape, wrong rhythm, the wet drag from nights before, 2 signals. 1 human, 1 not. We held the door. On day 6, we also changed comms. Radio times at top and bottom of the hour only, 60 seconds each, 4 words, count, need, hazard, plan. Teach people how to talk by limiting what they can say. We do not sell worry on the air. By day 7, the culvert crib held and the yard drained, so we risked a run while the creek was low. List: bleach, gloves, fuses, rubber, rice. Route: backlots, high ground, wood footbridge. Avoid chainlink and hanging signs. Dolly with solid tires wrapped in cloth, pry bar under towels, one radio in a foil pouch until needed. The farm store's glass held. The staff door had a cheap hasp. I swapped one screw to a longer one, levered the plate without a squeal, then put it back so the scar looked old. Inside we moved like a leak. Steady, no chatter. We took bleach, nitrile, pond liner, gutter screws, a rubber sheet for the greenhouse door. No loud gear. We signed a chit on our map so we would not find it twice. Wind pushed rain across the lot and a metal note rolled from the circle. We cut through a hedge and watched 3 figures drift toward the hum. Heads cocked, arms slack, steps slow. They waited for the next tone to fix their line. We waited them out and moved when their backs turned. Sound draws paths now. We guide with silence. Back home, we staged a new drain by the shed and hung a rubber strip on the greenhouse hasp. Renee drew a property map with blue water arrows and red hazard zones, taped it by the pantry and wrote under it, "Argue with maps in daylight." At 1840, a human voice called from the back fence, low, careful. "2 houses down," he said. Flood took the floor. "Need dry," we did not answer. He waited, then left. 5 minutes later, the east trip line clacked once in the wrong direction. We held. If they push us to speak, they already know too much. We are not a shelter. We are a hill with a plan. On day 7, we built a quiet lure to steer wanderers from the gate. Renee tied a rubber strip to a plastic elbow, staked it near the dead pine, and set a barrel drip. Each minute, the drop hit rubber and made a dull thup, enough to grab a head but not carry. Infected stood by it for hours, turning at each hit, then drifted. We watched from the attic and marked pause points. A quiet note that wastes their time is worth more than a loud gun that buys 1 minute and 10 more problems. By day 8, we needed fuel and clean bandages. The clinic was dark, but a side hall might hold supplies. We left at dawn in raincoats and rubbered boots with a hook pole and small pry. The waiting room glass had a star from a rock. We did not touch it. A short hall, a push bar, and a door whispered on a towel. We took gauze, tape, saline, and 2 oral rehydration packets, nothing we could not dose, left pills we could not verify. Back at the property, the lower fence bowed where a stump rolled against it overnight. We cut a lever from scrap, patted it, and pushed the panel while Renee held the post with a strap. We tied a diagonal. The fence hummed less. Small hums become big calls in rain. Kill them fast. That afternoon, an organized corridor net rode in. A calm woman called stations by River Mile and red flood stages. Isolated infected on high ground, most drift with water. Avoid circle plates. Do not shoot near metal. We logged mile marks, matched them to our creek, and knew when debris would hit the culvert. On day 8, we also set a beacon, not to call help, but to test pattern. We mounted a low-power Morse keyer behind a slit, blinking a faint red once each quarter hour, aimed at a stump. If someone shows at the same minute twice, they are not wandering. Programs cause patterns, we hunt patterns. By day 9, cloud thinned, batteries climbed, and we ran a controlled generator hour to dry the mudroom and burn damp from the pantry. Exhaust through barrel and trap, blanket hung, Renee on gauge, me on kill. We logged minutes, volts, and sound, then shut down and used the heat to pasteurize. 1 loud hour buys many quiet if you spend it on drying and clean water. With power steady, we faced the bridge people. People with plates move crowds, crowds sweep fences. We packed a talk, not a deal. A dawn schedule we would ping. A promise to keep tones low. A request that they drop plates in wind. We carried nothing they could take and walked a route that touched wood and dirt. We stopped above the circle and watched. 2 trucks boxed the road, metal sheets hung, and a woman with a rifle directed a shaved head. The plates hummed when wind shifted. A kid sat on a cooler counting cans. The woman lifted a hand and did not point the rifle. We stayed outside reach and spoke even. "Plates pull infected," I said. "Wind pushes sound to us. We ping at dawn and 8. Hold your plates when wind rises." "Fuel buys a pass," the shaved head said. "Quiet buys life," Renee said. "Quiet keeps you alive." The woman watched our mouths, then the hill. "If I hear your ping twice, come back tomorrow," she said. "If not, don't." We left slow and did not turn our backs to the plates. Back home we built the ping. Not a siren, a tick. A 1-watt tone from a small panel on the water tower wrapped in rubber tied with cord. Timer set. Low duty cycle, low draw, narrow beam. Renee belayed while I clipped in and mounted the panel. We keyed once, heard our tick, and climbed down. At 2 past the hour, the porch tapped our code again, the clean human rhythm. We did not answer. The lower drag note did not come. Either they came alone or water pushed the infected elsewhere. Silence is a choice you pay for with questions. We chose it. On day 10, we rose at first light, checked the culvert, and climbed the tower to arm the timer. Wind low, climb clean. I tied the dry box and locked the keyer. Renee watched the road. 3 figures tilted at the first tick and drifted when it cut. Proof. Even a small sound pulls. Keep it short. At 9, we returned to the circle. The woman had heard us at dawn, and at 8, she nodded once. The shaved head scowled. "No fuel, no pass," he said. "Keep the plates still," I said. "We keep our side." She pointed toward the river. "Damn road is yours for now," she said. "Don't bring the dead back." We nodded and walked. We did not touch plates. We followed the dam road past a slumped guardrail to the small powerhouse under the lip. A chain blocked the drive. We patted it and lifted. A gray-haired man with a wrench stepped from the door and said, "Field supply in the cabinet, fuses in the bin." We checked the exciter and field. The commutator was dirty but not burned. We could build a simple regulator if windings held. We did not promise house power, only tools. A steady small current beats a loud big one that fails. We walked the penstock, checked gates, and wrote tasks on a board. Clean test field, dummy load, watch frequency. Do not rush a machine that lived through a flood. On the way back, a plate note rolled over the river. We marked wind on our map and took the high path. 2 wanderers stood in the ditch, noses up, listening for the next tone. We let them pass. By the end of day 10, our list was honest and short. Drains hold, culvert flows, panels clean, beacon ticks. The circle waits. The dam might live. We kept the porch quiet and the code unanswered. In the log, I wrote the 3 words I learned long ago: slow is smooth. Then the 4th we earned here, and smooth is quiet. Rain returns hard after midnight. On day 11, the rain returned in hard sheets and the creek retook the lower path, so we split as planned. Renee on drains and I on comms and perimeter, because water hides footsteps and footsteps become hands on wire when you miss small signs. By 8, the French drains pulled and the ground mount feet stood dry, but the east gate was soup that ate boots, so we laid pallet slats and a rope hand line at chest height, wrapped the carabiners, and chalked the route so tired brains could follow. At 9:12, a clipped female voice rode in on HF, asking for a medic at mile marker 12, warning that the bridge crew used their hanging plates as bait, not warning, and people who paid did not always pass. We logged it, said nothing, and went to the dam because 1 quiet watt beats 1 loud rescue that breaks our door. The powerhouse floor held silt and the exciter smelled old, not burned. We brushed the commutator, tickled the field with a hand crank, watched the needle rise slow, then ran a minute on dummy load with an SDR watching ripple. Bearing sang a thin note that told us to stop, oil, and try again later. We wrote a rule for the machine: 30 seconds on, 5 off, climb in steps, stop if smell sharpens or the note goes bright, because broken iron makes noise and noise buys company, and we are not lonely. On the way back, a bent sign sang when a branch struck it. 3 heads rose from the ditch, turned to the tone, and waited for the next hit. I steadied the plate with a gloved hand until wind died. Then we backed onto grass and counted until they drifted, patient and empty. By evening, the porch tapped our code again. 1, 2, pause, 3. A second rhythm followed, fast and too clean, as if someone practiced. We set the wooden brake pin, pushed a towel deeper under the bar, and wrote "No open to code" on the board. Night watch ran 2 hours. My slit fogged with our warmth, so I thickened the seal and cooled the hall, because heat and breath make a trail in rain, and they follow any trail. On day 12, a dull thud at the shed was the drift trap doing its ugly job, a shoulder wedged in brush with a hand on our mesh, skin torn, nails blunt, no blood that mattered. Water had half buried it, so we waited until noon, then tarp, bleach, and a short hole at the low edge. Recovery is part of defense. Renee staged a proper decon lane. Rinse, soap, rinse, bleach, air dry, sign above the sink, gloves on a string, burn barrel ready when weather cleared, simple steps near hands, beat rules in binders. Thin cloud gave the bank enough to dry the mudroom and pasteurize 2 more jugs. Power discipline buys days, so we logged time and amps, then taped 2 LEDs that leaked under cardboard. At 10:40, the corridor net warned of a new checkpoint near the quarry. Bats, 1 rifle, demands for food, and a habit of standing with their backs to stacked tires while the dead gathered behind. We drew a red band and wrote "Avoid spur, no reason to test strangers who love noise." We bartered on the farm lane for feed salt, left pasteurized water, and promised an HF relay to a sister upriver. He tapped the board with a finger the way men did when money worked. By afternoon, the dam gave us a clean minute at low load. The trace held flat, the smell stayed honest, and we shut down smiling small. 1 minute that repeats changes a week. Night brought a low choir from the circle plates and then a scream that cut. So we added a new chore. Wrap rubber around the tower rail so our beacon tick would not ride iron and sell our ridge. On day 13, the creek dropped and the lower yard reeked of mud and wet wood. We walked with poles, checked undercuts before ankles fell in, and found toe drag tracks pointing to the dead pine where our drip lure thumped each minute. We kept it, moved it a yard, and marked the new line. Near the compost bend, a man stood with a pack and a girl behind him, both soaked and still. He lifted his hands and said, "We need dry," then tapped our code on the post and said my name, which I had not given. We did not open. We ran quarantine outside like we wrote months ago, chairs under the awning inside the trip line, food and water by pole, checks and a timer, no promises. He said his name was Deacon and the girl was Maya. "Bridge plates took our car," he said. "We followed your tick." I felt the mistake in my chest and kept my face even. A 1-watt secret is still a secret to people who are not patient. Renee took temperatures, checked eyes and limbs, logged times on tape stuck to a post, and we kept hands visible. Rain and waiting teach truth. By evening, the east trip line pinged and a shape leaned on the fence, head tilted, mouth a flat line. The panel bowed and the post popped. I put 222 subsonic through the mesh into the head. It fell, tried to push on elbows, and I shot again. Water ran over the face and nothing coughed. We left it until morning, then tarp, bleach, a shallow hole where the ground already gave, rock backfill, and a new diagonal on the corner. Bodies compromise fences, so you cannot pretend they are just warnings. Night was bleach, wet wool and quiet. Deacon slept behind a screen. Maya stared at the ceiling and pressed her lips white. The house held. On day 14, we put Deacon to work at the dam because work binds faster than rules. He cleaned a fan housing, set barricade on the stair, held the lamp while I brushed the commutator again. He did not ask for fuel or promise help, which is the right way to start. Renee and I walked fence and found a second bow at the willow where soil washed from under a corner. We cut a diagonal brace, padded bolts, tightened until the hum stopped, and moved the drip lure to a new stake. Nothing stays in one place long when sound writes paths. At 11:10, our beacon ticked and 3 heads turned at the trees, then drifted. I wanted to cut the tower down, but the circle pass and dam trips lived on that tiny click, so we left it and taped a note. "Dampen rail daily. By noon, the powerhouse gave 3 clean minutes on small load. The bearing sounded less like complaint. The trace stayed flat, and we wrote steady in big letters. I unplugged the scope because superstition is just risk management with bad grammar. On the walk back, 2 horses moved on the ridge, lean and fast, no tack. They vanished into gray. We wrote horses on the map and saved the thought for a dry day. Maya asked to learn. Renee showed her how to tape a latch so it does not sing, how to glove and unglove without touching skin, and how to lay cloth in a drain without leaving a lip that catches leaves. She repeated steps like a list and got them right. Competence is a kind of heat. By evening, a group with phone lights walked toward the circle. Plates hummed, some froze, wind moved metal, and they moved. I wrote, "Do not go to the circle in weather at the map's edge because ink has to live where eyes go." Night brought our lure doing work. A drag note came up the slope, paused by the thump and held. We slept an hour without counting steps. On day 15, the river rose again and the powerhouse intake choked with leaves. We belayed on the wet stairs, raked in passes, counted fingers after, and cleared the grate. Deacon worked without orders and watched the skirts like a man who has seen people lose. At 9:30, HF cracked, "Convoy down," then a grid that matched the west cut, then not people, then tone. I held the mic and let it go because leaving the door to chase a radio call is how houses die. Leadership feels wrong either way, so you write it, sit with it, and go back to work. We ran 5 minutes on small load, the longest yet, bearings cool, smell clean, trace flat. I wanted to tell the circle to hold their plates, but we only owed them a tick, so we gave it and walked away. Schedules keep doors closed. By afternoon, Renee cut a new swale inside the old one, a cut to a cut, so overflow had a place to go that was not our haul. We stacked sandbags into a low berm and turned a lip to send flow east. I told her she had saved as many lives with a shovel as any gun. She shrugged and asked for another bag. Dusk brought the porch taking weight again, and a voice I did not like said our code with a smile you can hear. "No," Renee said. Deacon's hand hovered at the bar. The voice spoke my name, which I had not broadcast. Nails rasped the sill like a file. The east tripline pinged once and went dead. We held and let rain speak for us. Breath under the door came and went. I pictured opening into a throat with a pry bar and also pictured wet hands and a slip that would cost us the haul. Imagination is a weapon and a liar. We kept the door. By night's end, the beacon ticked. 3 heads turned on the ridge and drifted. The bank hit 50%. The freezer slept, and the note in the dam stayed flat in my mind, which is as close as I get to peace. We closed day 15 with a rule in ink at the top of the board. Do not teach the code, not to anyone, not even the people we keep. If they need in, they can knock and wait. The hill decides, not the porch. Then the hook came anyway because hooks do not wait for boards. At 23:58, a small light blinked 3 times from the far ridge where no house stands. A clean, even pulse no storm could fake. The porch exhaled a wet breath we heard through wood. The drip lure thumped once. The east tripline rang. Something heavy slid in mud toward the gate and then stopped and waited there. On day 16, we ended quarantine for Deacon and Maya. Clean temperature, clear eyes, steady hands. Rules came first. No metal on metal. No lights outside. No door opens to code. Renee gave Maya drains and tape. I gave Deacon fence and dam. We moved cots, split utensils, marked a sick corner with a screen we hoped to never use. Early morning rain turned hard. The creek covered the lower path and brown water pushed sticks and a child's ball past our gate. The French drains pulled, the ground mount feet stood dry, and the greenhouse door showed only a 2-finger line. Renee wrote "thank the shovel" on tape and stuck it over the sink. We ran 1 generator hour at 9 a.m. to dry the mudroom and pasteurize, logged volts and minutes, then killed it before gusts built. Deacon asked about the tick and the pass. I said we ping at dawn and 8, no fuel, no lights, and the plates stay still when wind rises. The woman listens, he said. The shaved head sells noise. Noted. By noon, the corridor net was steady and useful. River miles, bridge heights, one washed culvert at marker 19, one report of infected crossing high ground after a dog barked too long. We circled dog noise and wrote don't feed sound. At 13:20, the east line clacked twice. A tall figure stood by the willow, turned to a loose hinge and pushed until it sang. Two more drifted from the ditch. I pressed the metal with a gloved palm until wind died. They drifted to the next note. We fixed the hinge with inner tube and tape and wrapped the shed latch for good measure. Afternoon was the dam. Bearings took oil. Field came up. We gave 30 seconds on dummy, then 60, then 90 while the SDR watched ripple. We spun down when the smell sharpened and wrote stop if hot on the panel. Toward evening, the circle sent a runner, a kid in a bait shop cap. He stayed in the road with hands high and said the woman wanted a tools-only window tomorrow. Chargers under tarp, plates still. If wind rises, you cut, I said. He nodded like it would make it back intact. Night was heavy rain, fast creek, porch breath under wood, beacon tick on time. We slept in shifts. On day 17, the net called a crest by mid-afternoon. Flood stage 2 rising, landslide at the quarry spur. We redrew routes with a thick line and wrote do not test the slide. The hill held like a boat with good bilge, only small leaks if you looked for them. We ate hot oats and a spoon of jam. At 10:15, a shout ran up the road, then a bright plate note, then a voice cut off. We stayed dark and let footsteps pass. Batteries climbed through cloud, trays drained. Maya staged a sump for the root room. She wrote turn off, move, check seat, test on a card and taped it at eye level. By midday, Hollis met us at the dam with a wrench and a nod. A raft had smacked the intake and cleared itself. We ran 90 seconds, then 2 minutes, then 2.5. Trace flat, bearings kind. We shut down first, smiled second. At 16:30, the kid jogged back wet and said yes to the window, then asked about a white van at the lake road. Maya's eyes lifted. No, I said. He left with a paper schedule and a heavier coat Renee found. Dusk brought a wrong version of our code, close but off by a beat, then a slow scrape like someone thinking with their nails. We braced and listened. The east line ticked once, then nothing. We held and let rain choose the next move. On day 18, flood stage 3 arrived and the culvert crib jammed under a mattress. We tied off and worked the downstream lip on a low pulse. Pull high and you lose a week. The mattress gave, the rush dropped, and we cut a spill around the greenhouse and ran plastic to the ditch. At 9:30, the tools-only window worked. Packs clicked on under tarp at dock 2 while plates stayed quiet. The woman nodded when I pointed at the racks before wind teased them. The shaved head counted cans and glared. We cut 5 minutes early on the first gust and left. At 12:10, HF carried a call from mile 16. A voice too calm, reading shop names, then cluster by the laundromat and close west doors. We checked our own west path and wrote a void until dry. By mid-afternoon, the dam gave 5 minutes at small load. We lit one lamp, charged one radio. Deacon wrote neat notes on the wallboard. At 17:20, a horse trotted the ridge, shook water at the old post and looked down. Maya said sky and went quiet. Plan a catch when ground firms, Renee said. Pallets, rope, grain. Night gave 3 clean ticks and 3 heads turning in the trees. The porch stayed quiet. We slept. On day 19, rain eased to a hard mist and we rebuilt a weak bend. Pull one panel, reset 3 posts, add an interior standoff. Renee tightened bolts until the hum quit. Late morning, a new runner from the circle, taller, cap low, said the shaved head wanted to review our pass. The woman was away, plates hummed because Cap loved wind. Pass stands, I said. Window closed for weather. He left. We moved the drip lure farther out and built a second on the south trail. Maya tied knots clean. Deacon paced with string and marked stakes. We tested with a bucket drip and watched from the attic. First pause in 8 minutes. At 14:30, the dam coughed, steadied, and warmed a loose terminal. We tightened with a wrapped wrench, ran 3 minutes, cut, and logged. Toward evening, HF spat a name we did not like, Directive 9. Then checkpoint moved. Stay off the causeway. Then tone. We wrote causeway, avoid until eyes on. Evening brought footsteps on the porch, slow and careful. Our code tapped clean. 1, 2, pause, 3. A small voice said, please. Maya closed her eyes. Decide, Renee said. The east line pinged once and died. We held and let water answer. On day 20, a low ceiling sat over us, rain steady, wood grinding rock at the creek. We ate rice and beans and half a peach each. I wrote DRFEDMWAFDWT on the pantry and put initials beside them. Deacon took fence. Maya took water. Renee took drains and ground mount. I took dam and perimeter. At 8:40, a woman called on HF and said a group was moving near the school with poles and hooks to pull latches, the dead following like a slow river. We underlined hooks and wrote bar low as well as high. At 9:30, we ran the dam for a minute, checked heat and cut. At 10 o'clock, 2 minutes. At 10:33. At 11 o'clock, none. The smell sharpened and the note went bright. We stopped when the machine asked us to stop. Early afternoon, the circle plates banged, then went quiet. No runner. We closed the window until dusk. Afternoon was socks over an alcohol stove, lure reset, backflow check with a bucket, mudroom drained with a hand pump. Renee taped her cuffs so sleeves would not wick. At 15:40, a plate note rolled over the ridge, clean and high, then a shout, then 3 lower notes. The east line rang once and stopped. I kept the .22 in my hands and the shotgun near my knee. Steps came to the porch and stopped. Fingers brushed the sill. Code tapped twice, pause, 3. Breath under the door sounded like a person trying through cloth. They learned the rhythm, Renee said. We taught by surviving, I said. We did not open. We let rain talk. The hand went away, then back, then away for real. By evening, the bank sat at 49% and falling under cloud. The greenhouse stayed dry inside its lip, and the beacon ticked twice on time. We set towels under latches, checked bars, and wrote a new rule. Code at door, hold. Code plus breath, double hold. I closed day 20 with facts and the thing I did not want. Facts. Drains held, fence set, dam safe, water clean, bank low, porch tested. Around dusk, a small light blinked 3 times from the same far ridge as last night, clean and even and not storm. The porch boards creaked under a slow, careful weight, and something heavy slid in the mud outside the east gate and stopped and waited there. We killed the radio. Counted to 60 twice with our hands on the bar and feet braced, and when the east lure thumped and no bell answered, we learned the worst kind of quiet. The kind that waits for you to move first. On day 21, the rain steadied into a cold sheet. The bank hovered at 45% and the greenhouse lip kept doing its job, so we shifted from holding to shaping. We needed more time per watt and fewer chances per step. Renee redrew the lower yard with chalk. 2 new swales inside the berm, a small spill toward the ditch, and 1 sacrificial trench to rock so bursts had a place to die. Early morning, the beacon ticked and 2 heads rose at the tree line, turned, then drifted. The far ridge light did not blink. We taped a card at the radio. Do not ask, never confirm, schedule only, and went to work. By 9:10, we staged a quiet catch for the horse. Pallets as a gate, grain in a rubber bowl, rope lines looped with towels. Maya whispered the name and watched the ridge. Deacon posted where the fence curved and kept his hands in his pockets so we would not look like hunters. At 10:05, a runner from the circle arrived in a clean jacket, not the bait shop kid. He stayed outside the bars and said, "The woman is away. The pass stands if you bring chargers and keep the tick." We said window at noon, plates still, no wind. He smiled too long. "Plates always sing," he said. We closed the talk. Noon gave a break, so we went slow to the docks. The shaved head leaned on the plate frame like a man in love. We set 2 chargers under tarp and left early when the sheet rippled. Deacon watched him nudge a plate. We wrote the time. Early afternoon, HF barked 3 words. "Stay off dam." Then a partial grid, then static. We froze, then walked the high road in rain with the hook pole and a wrapped wrench. Inside, the smell was normal and the note was nil. A branch had slapped the intake screen and stuck. We cleared it and wrote stop rumors on the door. Evening, the horse ate from the bowl, ears forward, ribs like a board under wet hair. Maya stepped to the pallet gate with the rope low and spoke soft. The horse snorted and sidestepped. "Tomorrow," Renee said, and we closed without metal. Night tested us. The porch code tapped once, then twice, then paused too long, then tapped again. A voice whispered my name without the right cadence. The east lure thumped and held two shapes. We repeated the rule and let the bar work. The code faded, the breath did not. On day 22, we tilted 2 panel strings for runoff and washed backs with rainwater and a brush. Deacon cleaned the combiner under tarp. I tightened a wobbled leg. Renee cut a slit to carry sheet water off the ground mount into the sacrificial trench. At 9:25, the corridor net read small towns gone dark and one that asked for clean water recipes on air. "Pasteurize with a thermometer," we said into the table and not the mic. Later, the net read it back in someone else's voice. Good ideas travel without names. At 11 o'clock, we walked the powerhouse and ran 2 minutes to warm bearings, then stopped to feel the housing with a bare hand. Warm is fine. Hot is a lie. We drilled a small drain and squeegeed silt. Hollis said the river would give us hours if we stayed boring. At 15:20, the shaved head brought 2 men to the curve below our drive and staged a talk. "Plates keep them away," he said, and hit the rack. 3 heads tilted in the trees. He grinned. We stayed inside and wrote what he taught. He wants a crowd he can steer. Night slackened. The far ridge light blinked once, long, then again, short. We wrote it and did not answer. On day 23, we hit the scene that opened this story. Flood stage 3, sandbags bowed, sump pump coughing, bank low, porch code in rain, breath under the sill. We held the bar and did not end the silence. Day broke. Water dropped a palm. Slide scars sat by the willow. The east lure stake bent. We reset the weight. At 9:45, the horse came again and let Maya touch her neck through the fence. We opened the pallet gate with towels in place. The rope came over like a handshake. The horse chewed, stepped, then backed and trotted to the ridge. Hope is a tool if you treat it like one. Around noon, the corridor net said the circle plates were bait and a convoy had run into a wall of them at the causeway. We circled causeway twice and underlined bait. Afternoon, we ran the dam to 3 minutes twice with a long rest. The trace stayed flat. We cut power to everything but pasteurization and headlamps. Bank rose 8 points. On day 24, a weak front slid through and the creek cleared. We scrubbed panel legs and the greenhouse door seal. Renee pushed a narrow berm and set a small check dam with rock and branch. At 10:05, the circle sent the bait shop kid with a note from the woman. Drop plates noon to 2, wind rising, need quiet. We watched the ridge and saw 3 small groups drift along the road and keep going. Proof that the woman was the signal and the shaved head was the noise. At 14:50, the far ridge light blinked a 3-beat group. Pause. 3-beat again. We did not answer. Deacon thought it was someone at the Lake Road who had learned our tick. Renee said maybe, so we added another towel to the latch. Evening gave stars between cloud ribs. We charged to 60 and shut down to rest cells. We taped a note, storm profile off, tomorrow normal. On day 25, we took the dam into a longer cycle. 30 seconds on, 1 off, a minute, 2 off, then 3, then rest. The machine behaved. We plugged in a small DC pump and filled a barrel uphill by inches. At 11:40, the circle changed staff. The woman returned, saw us on the road, and lifted a hand. The shaved head argued at the racks. Plates stayed still. She tapped her watch and pointed upriver as if she heard our tick. We nodded. At 13:10, the horse stepped into the catch, nose in grain. Maya slipped the rope over the neck and around, no hard pull, just the weight of a line and a girl's breath. The hinge did not sing. Renee slid a bar. For the first time in weeks, a thing went right on the first try. At 1400 hours, HF warned, plates moved to the old school lot, avoid. They stack sound now. We drew a thick box and wrote stay left if wind is west. Toward evening, the far ridge light blinked again. 3, then 2. We did not answer. We closed early, checked towels and bars, and set the watch. By night, the creek sounded like a normal creek. Bank sat at 62. Pasteurized jugs lined the wall. The horse chewed outside the mudroom window and huffed at our breath. Then the hook anyway, because calm is bait too. At 22:18, our tick did not fire. The tower stayed dark. The woman keyed HF and said, "No beacon at dawn or 8. Is the hill still there?" We did not key back. We went out with a wrapped wrench and a red lamp and climbed the tower in rain. The panel wire had been cut clean under the rail where only hands could reach, and on the towel under the latch we had doubled, 3 dots in mud lined up like someone smiled while they worked. We wrote Sabotage on the board and circled it twice before dawn, silently. On day 26, we treated the cut wire as a person with reach, not a storm, and changed posture. We pulled the tower panel, wrapped the rail in inner tube, killed the beacon, and set a quiet alarm on the hatch, a wooden peg that drops into a cloth-lined cup. We flipped the porch towel so fresh mud prints would show. We did not answer the woman on HF. Early morning on day 26, the horse stood at the pallet gate. Maya checked hooves and taped a loose shoe so it would not click. Renee tied a short lead. We needed eyes on the ridge without walking it every hour. By 9 o'clock, Bank sat at 65 under broken cloud, so we burnt a little on a useful test, a DC bucket pump pushing water to the attic barrel. It worked. We logged and shut down. At 10:15, we walked the dam with Hollis and chalked a goal, 6 minutes steady on small load. Intake clean, brush springs set, bearings oiled, hands on the kill. We ran 30 seconds, 1, 2, 3 cut when the note hinted bright. "Tomorrow," Hollis said. Early afternoon, the circle sent the bait shop kid with a note. "Is your hill safe? Tick at noon?" "No tick until the rail is secure," I said. "Plates moved up the road," he added, then left. By 1400, we turned to tells. Renee strung fishing line across the east path. Knots at the ends would fall where eyes go if hands broke it. I set a mirror shard under the eave to catch movement. Deacon whittled a silent wedge for the inside bar. Maya taped a checklist by the back door. Late afternoon, a woman on HF said plates had moved to the school lot and the shaved head taxed review. "Do not meet at the racks," she said. We circled the lot and wrote no deals under metal. Night stayed wet. After dark, the door tapped the wrong code, slow, then fast. Breath leaked under the sill. No ring on the east line. A heel slipped at the side step. A low curse said human, not drift. On day 27, we pushed our line outward. We built 2 low blinds, burlap on branch frames, and cut dry crawls into brush, one with eyes on the tower, one on the drive. For hands on the rail, we staged a looped rope on a spring pole. Shotgun stayed cold unless a breach earned the echo. Shortly after sunrise on day 27, the horse took 2 small panniers, dry socks, tape, and Maya walked the ridge. Fresh boot cuts showed a star heel crossing toward the tower and back. The kid wore cheap soles. The shaved head wore motorcycle tread. The star belonged to someone else. At 10:05, we brought the dam to 5 minutes. Hollis watched the needle. Renee palmed bearings. Deacon stood on the kill. I watched ripple. Smell stayed honest. We cut at 5 and wrote closer on the stair. Around noon, the woman keyed HF. "If dark by choice, I'll hold plates until tomorrow." We said nothing and underlined her line. Afternoon gave a window for a micro-hydro pilot on the side creek. A small impeller on a braced board trickled into a field pack. Too small for lights, enough for radios. Renee called it a morale charger. At 1750, the mirror blinked. A cap brim rose at the porch and ducked, the bait shop kid. 2 fingers in cloth tried the latch. The peg dropped and thocked. He froze and whispered, "Sorry." A second head rose and did not duck, the shaved head. He tapped the wrong rhyme and grinned at wood. We did not move. Footsteps left. The shape at the willow froze on the lure thump. On day 28, we reached 6 minutes at the dam and shut down happy. We filled 2 attic barrels and wrote, "Attic water only with a spotter. Wet wood slips." Mid-morning on day 28, the corridor net read a slide near the quarry spur. Circle might be cut off. Plates travel on trucks, the woman said. If you hear them where they were not, it's us moving or him calling. By noon, bank hit 70. We ran DC lamps to dry the hall. Renee added 2 stick-check dams to stack leaves where we wanted. Mid-afternoon, the far ridge light blinked. 323, then smeared. We logged it and did not answer. Toward evening, a man stepped from trees above the east path and stared at the horse. Star heel boots, plastic poncho. He touched the lure stake and waited for the thump, cocking his head when it came. He had been watching. I held the .22 on him and did not fire. He left toward the school lot. Night held. Porch empty. Beacon down. On day 29, we set intent. We wrapped a new backdoor bar, angle iron and rubber, cut a crash wedge for the front, and planted an inner row of stakes so a push would spend before wire. We raised the pallet catch into a small pen. Maya drilled rope work with gloves on. Early morning on day 29, the woman asked any station with batteries to meet her on a quiet channel at 2000 hours. Not on open net, she said. We wrote the time and did not answer. At 10 o'clock, we ran the dam 3 times, 3 minutes each. Ripple held. She'll carry a radio stack if we keep our heads, Hollis said. He needed a governor pin. We promised to look. Early afternoon, the bait shop kid stood outside our bars, said the pass was revoked without payment, set a folded sheet, fuel, wire, food by weight, a time to show. We did not go. At 1600, the ridge light blinked even in daylight. 3, pause, 3, maybe a mirror, maybe a hand. We logged it and stuck to plan. At 2000, we tuned the quiet channel. The woman came on once low. He will move plates to your curve before dawn, she said. He thinks you hide fuel. Lock your doors. We locked and wrote her sentence under rules. On day 30, I woke at 3:10 to Wood talking at the drive. Renee's hand was on the bar. Deacon held the hook pole. Maya kept rope ready. Plate notes rolled from the curve, small at first, then bright. Heads rose at the trees. The lure thumped twice and went silent under feet. No tap at the porch. We held tight. At 3:20, the shaved head shouted, "Pay now or be part of the fence." We stayed dark. The first infected hit outer wire, leaned and pushed. Inner stakes took the mass. Mesh bowed and held. A plate banged a post and screamed. More came. We waited through the worst minute. At 3:26, the woman keyed once, down, and plates by the curve went quiet one by one as if someone cut straps in the dark. The press eased. The shaved head yelled names. A truck started and died. The kid cried. Rain kept its rhythm. At 3:34, we chose to hold. The hill, the dam, the porch. We watched until the last head drifted and the last plate went still. We did not open. We logged times. Soon after first light, gray light showed an empty curve. A plate lay in the ditch with a fish doodled on the back. We left it. At 9 o'clock, we ran the dam 7 minutes. Trace flat, attic barrel warm. We washed to the elbow and breathed. Bank past 70. Greenhouse seal dry. Horse inside the pen eating without looking over her shoulder. Not safe. Steady. Afternoon, we cleaned bars and latches, tested the quiet alarm, walked the fence with hands, and stowed the tower panel. The beacon can wait for a time when patterns do not invite hands to our rail. I closed days 26 to 30 with the sentence I use when my head argues with my chest. We do not chase noise, we shape it. And until rain stops writing our choices, we keep the hill, the water, the wire, and the door. We hold the hill. The drains pull. The dam hums when asked and rests when told. The bank sits steady enough to plan, and the greenhouse lip still turns water like a small wall. That is how a place survives when rain writes the story. Renee keeps the map on the pantry door and edits with a pencil because plans that move survive. She adds a thin blue line where runoff cut a new groove. I hear that line when the house is quiet and the creek is high. Deacon walks fence in rain and sun and stops to feel posts for movement. He does not talk while he works. When he does speak, he reads weak spots like a list we can fight and win. Maya feeds the horse she named Sky and knots rope with gloves on. She moves like someone who remembers hunger and mud, and when she laughs once, short and real, I write it in the log because proof of life matters as much as kilowatts and sandbags. At the circle, plates are quiet in wind that would have sung last week. The woman keeps her word. The shaved head will try again with a new trick and a new crowd. We will let him spend noise while we bank silence and time. The radio runs at top and bottom of the hour. We pass counts and warnings and never names. Beyond the far ridge, a small light still learns our schedule and plays 3, then 2. We log it and do not answer. Hope waits without sound. Next steps are simple. Harden the inner standoff line. Finish the attic barrels, bring the dam to 10 minutes on small load. Plant greens that like cold. And cut a hidden slot to the lake for a scout run by kayak when the creek falls. We are still here. We are still alive. If you want the next 30 days, stay with us and keep the channel. Tap like to push this out to more survivors, drop a comment with the one tactic you'd add or change, and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss the next episode. Share this with someone who's building their plan and pin your best quiet rule below. I'll feature a few in the next log. New episode lands here next week. Watch.